Hello, my name is Viviane Juguero. I am a Brazilian artist and researcher. I work in the University of Stavanger in Norway. The research I will present to you today is Art as Science, path through a radical heteroscientific methodology. My intention is to propose a scientific way to reflect on the art's role, from the roots that connect art to life's complexity, avoiding superficial assumptions. To do so, I ground this investigation in the bonds between what I call the six radical W.
Radical what? The radical what presents the research focus or the main questions transparently and objectively, elucidating the concepts within the context of the research. Here, the central focus is the radical heteroscientific methodology of art as science. I conceive art as a human creative synthetic expression composed of affective, pluriperceptive aesthetic structures, independent of but connected to daily life's operational activities. It's hard to address this issue briefly, but in the article that I sent to this conference, I explained that artistic creations are expressions of a potential space where objectivity and subjectivity meet and make up an organizational identity through a creative synthesis. A path that begins in the intrauterine pluriperceptive emotional sensations through an elemental musicality that promotes the first known that will guide to the unknown, as happened throughout life. Then, through the aesthetic activism connected to the transitional objects, the baby builds the recognition of individuality and alterity. Through the projection of alterity in diverse objects and people, the child builds up the ability to play and the human property of theatricality, composed by the double perception of reality, the ability to simultaneously perceive a person or object in its daily operational status and a symbolic one. Theatricality leads to the ability to play symbolically and the possibility of creating and appreciating artistic objects. It results in affective rational perceptions distinctive from quotidian, since their detachment of the daily operative actions brings up pluriperceptive symbolic synthesis, fundamental to building humans' axiological foundations. Noteworthy, symbolic games and artistic creations are different. The games are created by subjective, socially emergent stimuli objectified in diverse plays. When appreciating art, the person internalizes exterior signs that dialogue with subjectivities and reflections. The art's elaboration is also diverse from the game, since the artistic creations are rooted in appreciative projection. Indeed, there are lots of nuances between them. Artistic objects are created based on the awareness about their aesthetic communicative status, but not necessarily present a conscious comprehension of the axiological signs promoted by them through diverse subliminal pedagogies. However, they are essential to building the cultural roots that generate values and behaviors by coordinating emotions, actions, rationality, and awareness that lead to the people's choices under different contexts. In this system, artistic compositions may either ratify the status quo or promote reflections and new references, resulting in cultural transformations from the roots. Moreover, they are deeply connected to the imaginary power responsible for the places people can imagine themselves and create their trajectories. Thus, no democratic society is possible without plural representation through aesthetic objects. Equal opportunities require parity in diversity, diverse people with the same material and imaginary power and structures adequate to each context. Etymologically, the word science is originated from the Greek term scientia, which means knowledge, a praxis where theory and practice are deeply connected. In this construction, universal concepts are based on dialogical convergent senses. To reflect on concrete situations, the concepts must be intertwined with the contexts, since when the concept precedes the understanding of a specific context, we find preconception, which means prejudice. On the other hand, when the focus on context dismisses a grounded knowledge, the result is the sterility of relativism, which intimidates any scientific reflection. The fragmentation of universalism and relativism results in vain dogmatism. The dialectic movement between universality and relativity creates science. A methodology is the chosen path to investigate a subject. It englobes methods, theoretical framework, critical approaches, and the study's structure, and is based on a specific viewpoint. However, even if the chosen perspective shows a philosophy, a research angle is not a guess. It is a scientific approach that may be supported or deconstructed by other scientific grounded studies. Radicality is the contrary of radicalism. Radicality investigates its issues root from a broad perspective that relate theory and practice dialectically. Radicalism follows inflexible truths rooted in preconceptions. Thus, radicality and radicalism are mutually exclusionary because they depart from contrary premises. Radicalism is based on fragmented understandings, where the concept always precedes the context dogmatically, based on superficial oppositionism. Radicality emerges from the dialectical perception that knowledge is constructed deeply intertwined in all aspects that constitute life, through a praxis that reflects on itself and the context in which it operates. For Bakhtin, investigations about art are heteroscientific because they have interdisciplinary connections since they axiologically contribute to building the social structures. Besides, Maturana states that anybody should be attached to a scientific field since all study must serve the complexity of life. So what about a radical heteroscientific methodology of art as science? It is a process philosophically oriented by a radical perspective committed to promoting cultural transformations based on awareness and social responsibility through the specificity of art and artistic studies. This methodology is a process conscious about the connections between the six radical W. It doesn't abstract the possibility of focusing on one aspect, but avoids forgetting that each particularity is composed within the whole complexity. It's not based on a fixed linear method. Instead, it is a dialectic process where all the steps are intertwined and evolve from mutual interferences. Radical Who. The Radical Who presents the people embraced by the research broadly. As the author, I am a Brazilian brown middle-aged woman from a non-privileged group. In more than 20 years as an artist, professor, and researcher, I worked and developed my studies in diverse places. Indirectly, all the audiences, students, professors, partners, authors, and the universities of my trajectory echoing this study. Directly, I work at the Center for Research in Early Childhood Filiorum at the University of Stavanger, connected to a specific project. The international network I participate in also contributes to this process. Radical When. The Radical When concerns the research historic moment. This study was made in 2021 during the pandemic COVID-19. The technology available enabled online conversations worldwide. Radical Where. The Radical Where deals with the research social environment. This study is developed at the University of Stavanger through Filiorum that values the relevance of this subject. Stavanger also values artistic activities, and its policies recognize they are fundamental to their intention of building a we culture. However, the Council of Europe states that the city is far from reaching this goal. My studies intend to contribute to the development of the field locally and internationally. Radical Why. The Radical Why justifies the reasons that support the research development and expose its intended contributions. The social and pedagogical arts role has been part of my work for more than 20 years. In 2020, discussions about the arts value emerged worldwide due to the pandemic COVID-19's catastrophic effects on the field and the contemporary possibilities of international online dialogues. In the local project Senecum Still Olasmo, I found the same topics presented in Acetage Manifesto and its meetings worldwide. However, the assumptions presented were not scientifically grounded. Noteworthily, the Acetage Manifesto is a fundamental source since it shows the central issues that need to be investigated by committed researchers. Still, the policies of the municipality and the University of Stavanger and Filiorum also support the necessity of this research. Thus, scientific development may contribute to the dialectical improvement of the field and the entire society. Artistic creation synthesizes the values and behaviors of society, promoting ratifications or transformations, thus reflecting scientifically on the art's specific or crucial role to in the entirety of life, is a broad necessity essential to a social development committed to better conditions based on respect and democracy as parity in diversity. I hope my proposition of a radical heteroscientific methodology may provoke grounded investigations about art as science and may evolve through creative connections and critical dialogue between committed researchers and the broad society.